No, it wasn't my tea. Now, Blue Peter time now, and we start with science.
Lots of work to be done, obviously. Hi, Morris. To the playground. Hello! I'm sure that anyone keen on trains will have spotted straight away that great old giant of steam, the 532 Blue Peter. She just started a major refit, including a complete engine overhaul, and you can see what happened when I joined the team that aims to have her back in steam by the end of next year. The weather has been rotten today, hasn't it? So unfortunately, you can't see my amazing barbecuing. You have to wait until next week instead. Aren't you relieved?
Well, it's all very well having a barbecue or a picnic out of doors in the summer, weather permitting. But what about having a meal 2.5 miles underground? And not just one meal either, but 3 meals a day for 5 people for 9 days. And that's 135 meals, by the way. Well, that's what happened to 5 speleologists who call themselves the Rock Steady Crew and who explore underground caves. Now, when they wanted to explore more tunnels under Llangatock Mountain in South Wales, they prepared to go 2.5 miles below the Earth's surface for 9 days, non-stop. And this was where their carefully planned adventure started. It's the beginning of a 520-metre crawl along passages as narrow as 35 centimetres to a cavern that they were going to make their base camp. This alone took the cavers nearly 9 hours to complete, hauling all their equipment for their record-breaking 9-day camp. Even without equipment, it would have taken an experienced caver up to 4 hours to make this journey. During the team's stay, some fresh supplies of food were brought to them by volunteer porters, and to deliver a pack of bacon to the starving underground dwellers was an 8-hour round trip. As well as food, there was cooking equipment, clothes, first aid and filming gear, all to be manhandled inch by inch to base camp, and even a complete music system.
And we've reconstructed even that base camp here in the studio just to give you some idea of what being 2.5 miles underground is like. And here are the team of intrepid speleologists, which is technical term for cavers. They're Clive Gardner, Mark Lumley, Tim Allen, Peter Bolt and Henry Bennett. Welcome to the programme. Mark, was the bacon worth it?
Delicious.
All that effort. What did you actually call your base camp?
We called it the Hard Rock Cafe.
Why was that?
Well, we decided there's so many Hard Rock cafes around the world, we go one better and have the most remote.
And yours was the real one?
Oh, it sure was, yeah.
Now, you were dragging so much equipment in the bit of film we saw. Why did you bring a music system as well?
Well, it's good for morale, really, because frankly, we're down there for about 9 days, and well, it just cheered our spirits up. Excellent, it really was.
You've all got lights on your helmets at the moment. Did you keep those on all the time when you were down in the cave?
Yeah, it's very important when you go caving to have a proper lamp. And in fact, if you get separated from your companions, you should always have a spare lamp. And this is the sort of spare lamp that we'd use.
Right.
But in order to conserve our light, when we were at the campsite, because these batteries in the lights only last a short while, we had a gas lamp which was hanging in the roof and would generally illuminate the kitchen area.
So there's always something. Does it get very claustrophobic because the spaces looked incredibly small?
Well, as you'd have seen from the shot of the entrance, it's actually a bit like Doctor Who's TARDIS, because there's a tiny little entrance, and then right in the middle of the mountain you get into the most enormous passage, and we called that the time machine.
Right. Now, being underground like that, it must be very easy to lose track of time. And I mean, looking at the film, you seem very, very organised. What about meal times and things?
Well, we were very well planned at first, and we had our meals regularly, and we worked as if we were outside the cave. But as the days went on, we gradually spent longer and longer staying awake, until eventually we stayed awake for 24 hours. And at that stage, we started becoming very hungry. And the following day after that, I think it was something like 3 meals we had in the space of 6 hours, just to catch up on what we'd missed out on.
What sort of things were you eating?
Well, we'd have dry pasta meals, which you see here, or...
You look so miserable sitting down there.
For lunch, we'd have cheese and bread sandwiches and water to drink.
Not a very exciting diet at all. How about washing up afterwards?
Well, washing up wasn't too bad. It was about a 3-minute walk away from the campsite. If we wanted to collect fresh water, we had to go much further away, 3/4 of an hour. But the important thing about washing was to wash at the correct end of the pool, because at the other end of the pool, where the water was flowing to, was the lavatory.
Oh, and did you ever get them mixed up?
No, you had to make absolutely certain you're in the right place. And it was a bit like a French lavatory, where you had to crouch down and then make sure that you didn't fall over backwards into it.
And nobody's going to own up whether they did or not.
I'm saying
It's very silent on that one. Now, previously to your attempt, what was the record for people staying underground?
Well, I don't know what the world record is, but for cave exploration and filming in this country, it was 4.5 days in a cave called Otter Hole underneath Chepstow Racecourse.
So you did, double that time. You weren't just on to break the record, though.
No, our purpose was that in this mountain there are 3 separate cave systems, and what we were hoping to do is find some of the way towards making the missing links that would join those 3 caves together and make the longest cave in Britain, which would have in excess of 50 miles of passages and tunnels.
When you say linking caves up, are you actually making new passages or just finding existing ones?
Well, you never actually create passages underground, but you in fact find the constrictions and work your way through them. And this we managed to do, we were successful in doing in Perseverance Passage.
Now, this looks such a small space. It must have been dreadful trying to get through it.
Oh, this is a rift we found in Perseverance Passage.
Yeah, this is us digging. You see, we're scraping the soil back.
Is that just
with
to
these
enlarge
hand
the
tools.
passage?
Yeah, it's almost blocked to the roof. There's just a very small air space. And Mark's raking it all back, breaking up the mud, and he fills it into this bucket here, which gets dragged back and emptied to where there's more space.
Are you just trying to make enough space so that you can actually get through it?
Yeah, you just make a body-size hole, really. Otherwise, you just end up with mountains of equipment.
Now, what happened if you had, like, large boulders in the way?
Well, if there are boulders blocking the passage, we need to use explosives to break them up.
And you didn't use that a lot at the time, then?
No, it's mainly digging like this. You see, pulling back the rubble there.
And that's just piled up?
This would
You
happen
can
in a
have
bigger
problems.
passage than you were actually digging in.
You can have problems if you run out of room to stow the waste.
This is,
Well, it sounds just dreadful.
this is moving the boulders after an explosion.
Right. Is
See,
it...
they're fairly big, some of them.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't... You're never worried about the roof collapsing or anything completely when you use explosive, are you?
Well, no, I mean, you use it very carefully and put it in just the right places so it brings down exactly what you want.
Oh. Like your camera was shattered to pieces
Setting
there.
it off.
Did you have many accidents?
Well, when I was placing those charges, I knocked down a boulder, and Clive and Mark were underneath me, and they had to move out the way pretty sharpish to avoid it.
So you always have to be on your guard, really, when you're down there.
Yeah.
Always have to keep a sixth sense.
It looks just awful. How did you cope with all the mud and the damp and the cold?
Well, we're all cold in the ring. We're wearing these troll oversuits, which keep us dry all the time. And underneath that, we wear a kind of fibre pile oversuit, which is, well, it keeps you dry all the time and warm. But around camp, basically, we just wore normal clothes as you would outside. And certainly for sleeping in, we all had these sleeping bags inside, kind of like
So you were quite warm
yeah,
then.
very warm.
Now, after all that effort, did you finally manage to link up the caves?
Well, we didn't link them on this occasion. That's certainly something that's really is a caver's dream of a lifetime. But with Perseverance Passage, we've certainly gone a long way towards making that link.
Will you go back again there? Or how do you know where to dig for the passages?
Right, well, when we're cave exploring, the preliminary work we do a survey with a very simple compass, a silver compass, which we angle down the passage in the direction it's going, and then we imagine out people lying on the floor, body lengths, and we build up a list of notes on where the passage direction is going. And from those notes, we work out a survey. Now, this is a survey I've drawn up for the Cavers magazine Descent, and it shows on here in green the passages that were discovered as a result of the Chelsea Speleological Society breakthrough, and then in red the passages that the Rocksteady crew have discovered,
Right.
and Perseverance Passage, which we discovered on the camp, leading to a question mark in the middle of a blank
Where it
area.
goes to next. It must be brilliant when you discover a new passage, a cavern.
It's absolutely superb. This, the Time Machine, is the largest underground passage in Britain. It's roughly the length of 4 football pitches and the height of Albert Hall.
Oh, it's a wonderful feeling walking into it. It's great. Will you go back and try again?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
certainly.
Next
Well,
week.
rather you than me. Good luck for it. And now from down in the cave, back up to ground level and Janet.
I must say I'm glad I am. What a brilliant set, though. You'd never have believed they weren't 2.5 miles underground. But if you do want to go and explore caves and tunnels, it's obviously not something that you should do on your own. But you can get information about where your nearest club or society is by writing to the NCA Information Officer, 3 Valetort Road, Stoke, Plymouth, Devon, PL7 5PH. Don't forget to enclose the sumptuous envelope so that they can write back to you. Well, it's 40 years ago next year since a Class A2 Pacific locomotive went into service, the 532 Blue Peter. In the next 18 years, she clocked up over 1 million miles on the rails before she was taken out of service and put into a siding. And this photograph of the poor old 532 on her side down an embankment, very neglected, was sent to us many years ago by a Blue Peter viewer. She obviously took a lot of punishment during her years of service. So it was a very big